Welcome to the Digital Strategies for Small Business podcast with Adam Roseland and Jason O'Mara. This is episode number 3, and it is an interview with the founder of Video Professor, recorded January 31st, 2014. So I'd like to welcome and thank John Scherer today for joining us on our show. John is the creator and spokesperson of a product that is very familiar to me. It's called the Video Professor series. And first off, thanks for joining me on the show, John.
You're welcome, Adam. Thanks for having me.
If you aren't familiar with Video Professor, which would absolutely boggle my mind, it was a product John created, which was a series of videos that helped teach people how to use computers. And this was not just yesterday. This is back, I think it got started around 1987. And John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed every time I turned on the television, his infomercial was running, pitching this product. And John was not only the creator, but he was also the spokesperson. So, John, if you could, let's just start off with a brief bio. Tell my listeners about about you. Where do you grow up? Where do you live now? Are you married? Do you have kids? Where do you go to school? Fun stuff like that.
Well, that's a lot of stuff.
Well, let's start with where did you grow up?
No, I grew up west of Chicago. I actually, Naperville, Illinois is where all my family is, but I went to high school in a town called Geneva, Illinois, and graduated from there. My parents then moved. They were in the process of moving to Wisconsin. I went to school at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater for business and finished there and moved directly to Colorado. And now and that's where Video Professor was founded. And now I happen to live in Arizona, but Video Professor started in 86, I guess. I'm realizing how old I am. I'm kind of an antique. So I finished school and went to Colorado, and I've always been in business for myself, except for 1 month of my life after I graduated from college. 1 month of my life, I honored what my mother asked me to do. She said, "Just get a regular job, John. Get a real job." And so I did. I worked for an employment agency as an agent, I guess, interviewing people to find them jobs. And I did that for 30 days, and that was the end of that. But short of that, I've been in business for myself. And Video Professor, I was with them, that company for 23 years. Left there in 2010, and I'm in Arizona. And of course, I've got new projects.
Married? Have children?
No, I've never been married. I don't know how to explain that. I guess there were times I was going to get married, and I am a workaholic. I truly love working. I don't know. I just love working.
So you've been married to your company for the past 23 plus years.
Yes, and I do love it, and I think I would have cheated a family out of what they should have. I mean, as far as having a father around. I could be wrong. I can't second guess it, and I don't. But I just know at the time I thought, boy, I'm focused on this company and doing what I'm doing, and I better stay focused. That's not to encourage anybody from not getting married. You can do both. I'm sure of that.
Absolutely, but it speaks a lot about personalities, in my opinion. I'm a true believer in studying human behavior, and I think that people that are just absolutely enamored with working for themselves, a lot of times can't separate from their work, from their jobs, to actually be that family person. So it actually, to me, it speaks volumes about the type of person you are without even knowing you really. Just knowing that you're a workaholic, just because you've basically sacrificed what a lot of people think is the most important thing in life, is a family and children and stuff like that. You sacrifice that to make sure that you rewarded yourself by building a tremendous business for yourself over the past years. So.
Right, and at our peak, I had 350 employees. Um, so
That's a big family right there.
yeah, that was my family. That really, being a professor was my family over the years. Some of the president of the company, she was with me from day one, and we were just very close. So yeah, that was actually my family.
So you said that you never really had a job except for those 30 days. Did you have any formal business training before you started up any of your businesses?
Um, no, other college, of course, but I was in school. I was in management at the university, and I wanted to be a manager of an office. I I didn't. I took a few marketing courses, and what I said I would never ever do was I'm never going to sell. I'm never going to be a salesman, and I'm never going to sell anything like door to door or anything like that. My first job when I got to Colorado was selling water softeners door to door. So I just, yeah, I did that, and I remember I had a good boss. This guy was, he was good, but I only did this for a little while, and I wasn't working for the company. I was independent. But
Hmm.
I remember he said to me one time, we'd go in at 5 o'clock at night to these sales meetings, and then we'd get our leads and we'd go sell. And at the time I'm out of college, I still want to have fun, and make money, and I could really make a lot of money selling these water softeners. But he said to me, he said, I don't know what it is with you, but you come to these sales meetings, you're not rah rah rah, you're not jumping up and down, you're not getting fired up, but you just go out and sell. And and I think that carried over with me forever. I just am who I am, and people describe me as a soft-spoken, mild-mannered pitch man. I'm not a Billy Mays.
No.
Just I'm just not. And in doing what I did, I never thought of myself as a pitch man. I thought of myself as a spokesperson for the company. I owned the company. I knew the most about the product, and so that's how I got involved with that. But I'm very easygoing. At times, um, I've tried to be a little hyper, I guess. Um, I'm hyper off camera. I can bounce off the walls off camera. I want to tell you something real quick. I remember the first time they wanted me to do commercials, not the infomercial, but the 60-second commercials. I I told everybody because I was in a meeting, a sales meeting, talking to everybody, and the marketing guy stopped me and he said, "Stop, John. This is exactly what we want you to say on camera." I said, "Well, I can't do that. I can't." I said, "But what I will do," I said, "you can put the camera on me, and then you guys edit it together however you want."
Yeah,
But
build your script after I record it, right?
yeah, no script, just did it, and that's how it got started. I said, "Test it and see if it works," and they did. They tested it, and it worked. It just really, we rang the phone. So anyway, that's kind of how I don't know, how I picture myself, and I guess I'm still that way today.
Well, that's all good. So here's the question that really is the most important to me and probably my listeners. A lot of the people listening are starting small businesses, niche websites, stuff like that. They're trying to figure out how to differentiate themselves. It seems like a no-brainer idea now, but how did you ever come up with the idea of computer learning 20 years ago when computer learning wasn't obviously a big thing?
I was manufacturing IBM clone computers. Computers had just come out, and I was manufacturing them, and we were slowly going on a business. I had about 2,200 ma and pa computer stores. They didn't have the big superstores. Back then, it was ma and pa.
Well, it sounds like they're not going to have those big computer stores anymore either.
Yeah, I know, they don't. It's all online.
Yep.
But we were doing that, and I'm trying to think, how can I sell more computers, large numbers, and we got connected with Charles Schwab at the time. Had a software program called the Equalizer. I'll never forget it, and And I thought, you know what? If I can package a deal with Charles Schwab, give his clients computers, we'll do a video to teach his clients how to use the equalizer program. And somebody said to me, well, the people don't know how to run the computer. And I go, well, just go out and find it. It'll be in a how-to store, or you'll find it in a library. You'll find a video on how to run a computer. And there was nothing, absolutely nothing. And I go, bingo. And that's how it got started. We sat around, we developed a name. I wanted to come up with a name. I wanted something that was generic, broad enough. Video professor, it wasn't a computer learning name, it was video professor that could teach anything. And I saw us teaching all kinds of stuff. I pictured that back then, just didn't know what it would be. I didn't know I'd be teaching eBay, but and so that's how we came up with that. And I would, your question about to your listeners about how do you differentiate yourself, you just that you hear what I did, and then I said to everybody, okay, we got to be the first one, which we were, and we got to be the best, make the best product, and so I started down that path, and we sold the videos to all our little mom and pop stores. They eventually went on a business. I tried selling to the mass marketers. I mean, not the big stores,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the big ones back then, and we started selling to them, but it was just a struggle. They wanted to lock up our videos in a case because people would steal them. And I told these stores, I said, you can't do that. People won't buy them. So long and the short of it is, we were starting to just collapse. We were not doing well. We were doing about $1.5 million in business. Now, some of your listeners, that may sound great, and it can be. You can do $1.5 million of business a year and make, you know, if your expenses are low enough, you can make $1 million these days. But we weren't. We had tremendous expenses. So somebody came to us about an infomercial, and I said, come on, I don't have money for squat. And long and the short of it, we did an infomercial. It rang the phone. People needed to know how to use a computer. And we worked hard to figure out the offer piece of it. That's the key. You know, if you do an infomercial or you do a commercial, you can ring the phone. That's the first hurdle you have to overcome. You've got to be able to drive phone calls or drive people to your site. Mm-hmm. That's the big challenge that everyone has. I'm sure your listeners can identify with that. Well, how do we drive? When I say ring the phone these days, I don't mean literally ring the phone. I mean drive people to your site, get traffic.
Yep, call, click, or visit.
Yes, and so if you don't ring the phone, if you don't drive traffic, you don't have anyone to work with. You can't massage your offer because no one's listening.
Yep.
No one's reading it. So you got to get that. And if you get that piece figured out, that's the piece your listeners need to focus on. How do I get people listening to my message? And then once you do that, then you tweak your message to get them to convert. You focus on your message, and if you know, again, if you have a price point, let's say you want to be selling something for $100, well, test it at $100, but test it at $40, and test it at $130, and do those tests, and then see, and you'll come up with what works, and then you turn it on. Then because you know you can drive the traffic. You know you have the right offer, then you just turn it on. And for us back then, holy smokes, when we turned it on, once we figured out the offer, it was this simple, and it was just spend money. Spend your money on marketing, spend it on your advertising, and what we did, and I didn't have money, Adam, I just didn't have it. So what I did was I rolled every dollar that we got, I rolled it right back into buying more television. And I just was faithful in doing that. Every dime went back into it. And if you do that, all of a sudden you build a machine that you'll see you're, instead of spending $10,000 a week, now you're spending $100,000 a week, and then you're spending $1 million a month or $2 million a month, and the smoke clears, and you go, oh my gosh, look at this. So we dumped it back in, and I would strongly advise your listeners to put the money into marketing. Here's another piece of advice. When I held up, and I don't know if your listeners, what age they are, but when I held up that CD, that could have been blank. The viewers on television didn't know what I knew, that everything on the discs we were giving away and selling were really jam-packed with great learning. But they didn't buy, they weren't buying the nuts and bolts of what I had on that disc. They were buying my message. So sell your message, be sincere in what you do, and ring the phone. Ring that phone, and then what you have inside, you'll get repeat business. You'll get repeat people coming for more from you, because the quality of what you have and what you told them, they can rely on. You're honest. You tell them it's good, and they believe you, and they come back for more. And that's what happened.
So I'm trying my best. I'm like biting my tongue over here to try and avoid asking questions, because I have so many based on all this gold that you're giving us. So I'm going to kind of do a quick recap before I ask my questions. So creating the Video Professor series, it started with you basically making connections with your current customers and asking them, or figuring out what they really needed. Not what you were necessarily selling, but what they were looking for. And basically you came up with a concept that nobody else had, that your customers needed. And that was obviously the basics of how you came to really create this product. But once you had the product, you obviously had to sell the message. You had to make the phones ring. You had to make them call, click, or visit. Back in your day, it was ringing the phones. And then it was, of course, split testing, or massaging the messages to make sure that you found the right price points, you found the right way to sell your product profitably. But let me ask these questions, because you talked about them, and I don't want to glance over them. You talked about how much money you were spending. How much money did you spend on advertising back in the day?
Well, back in the day, we were spending as much as $2 million a month on television. Television, that's on 60-second spots, 60-second, 2-minute spots. Television just slowed down for us at one point, and we switched to newspapers. I tested a little ad in USA Today and grew that little bitty classified ad to a full-page ad. We ran full-page ads, half-page ads, quarter-page ads back then in newspapers when they worked. When they really were something. They're dead now. But back then, I was spending $1 million to $2 million a month on newspapers. We were in imagine, we were in every newspaper in the country. Every one.
I came from an ad agency, so I know exactly how much you're spending. I'm in Philadelphia. I know what Philadelphia rates are, so I know spending on full page ads in newspapers. I know the cost of TV advertising. I know the cost of infomercial advertising. So when you're speaking these numbers, it all makes sense to me, and I hope that the listeners are grasping just how much money that was going out. Obviously, a lot of revenue had to be coming in, but you had to spend a lot of money to make those phones ring. And let me ask you this, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. How long did it take you to really be profitable with this business? Because you did spend a lot of money. I know a lot's coming in, but how long did it really take to make you a lot of money?
Well, I got to tell you, here's the way it worked. The first 5 years, we were doing around $1.5 million in Video Professor, and as soon as I did television, and we got it to click, we jumped to $5 million. And from $5 million, the next year we were at $18 million in sales, and then it just climbed from there to as high as $130 million in 1 year. I forget what year that was, 05 or 06, I believe. We did $130 million in sales. and it was just a steady climb. And it was a formula of spending. You just keep spending, and the more you spend, the more you were getting back. And so that's kind of what we did. And it just pounded the name out there. Oh my, we had a lady one time write us a letter. We open it up and it says, "Stop, please. I'm in my 70s, and everybody knows who you are now. You can stop with the commercials."
I'm sure you'd love nothing more than to be able to actually stop and keep those revenue numbers coming in, because then the profits soar.
Oh, that was funny. Just stop. Everybody knows who you are.
Well,
So,
did you realize that you were actually, when doing all those commercials, that you were actually branding yourself as well, not just the Video Professor product?
no, Adam, I talked to, I was on a radio show yesterday, and the guy asked me that question. And the answer I'd like to give you and your listeners is, oh, of course. Of course I did. I thought this all through. But the truth is, I didn't. My commercials started out, every commercial I did, I said, "Hi, I'm John Scher, CEO and founder of Video Professor." And every commercial, and I said that just to introduce myself to people. I wanted them to know who I was, even though after all those years, everybody knew who I was. I just kept saying it. And never did I think about branding myself. I didn't think about it at all, but that's what it did. It branded me to this day, where pretty much if people don't know, they recognize me. They just can't put it together. I'll
Right.
get all kinds of people approaching me. They're just not remembering. But some people say, "Hey, John, how you doing?" I'm like, "Gee, how do you know me?" And they go, "Well, from TV." I'm thinking I met them somewhere. I met them last week or something, but they know me. So no, that's a long answer to your question. Sorry, Adam, but no, I didn't think about that at the time. But it's what it did.
And I know I kind of glanced over it, and I want to go back to it. How long did it take you to be profitable in the business? I know that the numbers started to really soar after about 5 years, but when you're doing $1.5 million in revenue at the beginning, are you really profitable, or did it really explode when you went on TV?
Yes, but I had debt from the computer company. So it's not a fair question as far as, I mean, it's a fair question, but my answer, as Video Professor, yes, we would start to be profitable after a few years, but I was burning through, eating up, paying off all the debt from the computer company. So, but 5 years, we started to make a little money, and I can't remember what. I say a little because I remember I was still strapped. But the first year of television, so our sixth year, I think we made $500,000.
Okay. So
So
you're spending a ton. You did $130 million in sales in 2006, and a lot of that money is going right back out the door on building that advertising portfolio, on spending more money to make those phones ring.
that's right.
And I want the listeners to really understand something that's so critical here is that it wasn't built overnight. You always hear about these success stories, and everybody thinks, oh, well, Facebook just happened overnight, or Video Professor just happened overnight. So many businesses, entrepreneurs are struggling, and they're thinking, when's the payout? When's the payout? When's the payout? And they're expecting it to happen within a month, 6 months of starting their business. And you got to build a business for the long haul and be prepared to make the sacrifices, be prepared to spend the money, and be prepared to learn the lessons of failure that you need to learn in order to be profitable. So I just want to make sure everybody pays attention to the fact that, I look at your brand as one of the most established brands in television, because when you just went back a second ago and said, "Hi, I'm John Scher, founder and CEO," it immediately took me back to the infomercials that I remember seeing so vividly. So
Yeah.
it's just, when you build that kind of response in a person, you're triggering a response in somebody, then it takes a lot of money to build that. And, congratulations on doing that, first of all.
Yeah, well, thank you. But yes, to your listeners, just hang in there. You just what you said, Adam. They've got to hang in there and just know their hard work will pay off. But it happens over many nights. It just doesn't happen overnight. That's what people don't get. Sometimes they think, "Oh boy, you fell into that." Well, you don't fall into it. You work hard. I'm sure you work hard, Adam. You and your listeners work hard. Just hang in there. You have the conviction. Just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. But to me, advertising is the most important thing. You know that old saying, what happens when you don't advertise? The answer is nothing.
Nothing.
Yes, nothing. And I will tell you this. All these years then that we were on television and we were the brand, everybody knew who we were, computer learning. There were companies that were 5 times the size of us for computer learning. 5 times the size. But no one knows who they are. No one. I didn't even know who they were. I didn't know anyone else existed. I thought it was just us. And then some companies who were in the B2B arena, we were not in that arena. We were only direct response. And later in life for me, I find out there's these companies doing a half a billion dollars a year in sales. So you see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I was the brand.
Yep.
We still had a profitable company, but other people who weren't known, they had a tremendously successful company. They just chose to go a quiet way. They chose to go the business to business route. I chose to put it on television, spend $1, and get $2 or $3 back. That was I still believe in television. As you know, I have that new show to help people at least attempt to be on television. Everybody says, "Oh, television. You can just go on the internet, do a commercial on the internet." It's not the same.
Well, I want to ask about that, but let me ask one question because we were just talking about learning, and then we'll talk about your new products and your new opportunities.
That's fine.
Speaking of learning, what is your biggest failure in the process of building up your businesses, and what did you learn from them?
The biggest failure, I wouldn't say it was a failure, but in hindsight, I would have not had the overhead that I had. I would do it differently. And today you outsource everything.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have the employees. Why do that? Outsource. And I look at it, and just to give you a quick example, I had salaries, I think, in my IT department of a couple $100,000 a month in employees in IT. In hindsight, if I had done it, I should have outsourced, except it was more difficult than now. Outsource it, because the outsourced companies, when you have meetings about stuff, they will speak frankly with you. If you have, I think about, I had all those people in a room. They would not say anything bad about one another. They would not they didn't lie to me. I just didn't get the truth. If I had outsourced that stuff, I would have heard from the different companies, you don't need this and you don't need that. I would have been more efficient. So in terms of your question, yes, that would be a failure. If anything, I would outsource. I should have done that. I shouldn't have had the staff that I had.
So now let's talk about what you're doing now. Products in the News, and productsinthenews.com is the website. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing and the next, I guess, evolution in the John Scherer story.
Right. Well, I remember when we started out, and television is very important. Today, here's my feeling about television. There's a lot of people with products or people with services that feel they'd like to be on television. They don't know how to start. They don't know the first thing about it. And if they do check it out, they're going to find out, well, gee, you got to do a script. That costs money. You've got to have somebody produce it. That costs a lot of money. Then you've got to air it. And where do they air it? How do they even know, Adam, where to go? With all the places you can put a show on, they just don't know. So I decided, and my ex-marketing VP is with me on this, we've got this show that for people that don't know, we will take their product, we'll script a spot for them, we'll produce a 1 minute, maybe it's a minute and a half, and we air it for them. And it airs on CNBC or Discovery Channel or any one of several different cable stations out there, it gives them a stamp of approval, credibility, what it does. And that's what television did for us. It gave us, we're credible, we are somebody. And then as the internet developed, which it's here now, so you take that stamp of credibility from television and you use it on the internet. Maybe you email your television appearance to companies. They see you're somebody. I can tell people this, if they're trying to get on QVC, one of the first questions they ask is, have you done any television advertising? Well, with our show, you can say, yes, we have. This is what we did. Whether it was a success or not, doesn't matter. It just shows that you got your brand out there on television. And so that's why we came up with this, to help people brand themselves. So on their website now, they can run this commercial. They can say on their website, as seen on TV. This is important stuff. Then they can put it on YouTube. It gives them credibility. I don't know about you, but when I see companies, it says as seen on TV, or their competitor, it doesn't say as seen on TV. I'm more inclined to go with the person that's been on TV. I think, well, they must be somebody.
Credibility. It's instant credibility.
It does. It just gives you instant credibility. And there's no one that argues that with me and people I've talked to. So that's why I developed the show, to help give people some instant credibility. And that's what it does.
At what point in the growth process of somebody's taking, a first-time entrepreneur taking their startup to the next level, at what point in the growth process do you think they should be looking at getting into television and heavily investing in advertising?
Well, first, they don't have to heavily invest. That's kind of a tough question.
Sorry.
It's a good question. I'd have to be talking to them, and they'd have to be telling me more than, I'm just guessing, and sometimes I don't like to do that. But let me say this: it's not about. They'll know if they feel they want to try television. I'll get away from our show, but I say that our show would be good for that. But let's say outside of our show, and they start doing a little television, and they see it's got traction. They see it's for them. Then they'll know. They'll feel their way through that. I want to say to them, call me, because I can shortcut it all for them. But it's just something that at least for me, we could see the traction. We could see spending money and getting a return, and that's what it's all about with television. Unless you have deep pockets, you just throw the money out there using the traditional advertising. With an advertising agency, they just throw the money out there to brand a product. I don't think that's what your listeners. I don't think maybe they got deep pockets, but still keep the money in your pocket and crawl before you walk, and certainly before you run. I love spending $1 and seeing $1, $2, $5 come back. It's just a fun business. So they just have to. I can't really say at what point in their business, but they got to advertise, Adam. You got to advertise it, whatever form that is. You got to put the dollars into advertising, because there's a ton of great products sitting in people's basements because they didn't advertise. There are inventors out there that they invent something and they feel it's the greatest thing in the world, but they don't get the message out there. They don't put their product out there to the world in a marketing form. An inventor and a marketer are two different things, way, way different. They're at opposite ends of the spectrum. So if some of your listeners have developed something, they got to get with a marketing person. I just can't stress that enough. Get with somebody that's marketing. If you don't have that strong suit, then get with somebody that does. And one of the other things, Adam, I'll tell you, recognize your weaknesses. Recognize your strength. You're not good at everything. There's no way I was good at everything. I was not good at the books, the numbers. I was terrible at it. I learned that what I was good at was delivering a message, and talking to people about my company and my product. That's what I was good at. I was not good sitting down and going through numbers. So if your listeners will keep that in mind, whatever they're good at, use that to their advantage and have people around them that can pick up on their weaknesses, and that gives you the strength. That gives you a good solid company.
I think just to recap what I think the most important message here, even though the question was, I think, more difficult than I probably should have made it, because you hit it right on the head. You have to know a lot more detail about what that business and what that entrepreneur is going through before you can tell them how to get to that next level. But I think what you did say was basically you need to surround yourself with the right people. Again, working for an advertising agency in my past history, I know that if a small business came to me and said, "Hey, look, I'm looking at doing television," we would create the commercial for them. We'd write the script for them, and we'd find the places to market for them. But at the end of the day, we're the one trying to take money from them and help establish their brand. But we're also looking to get them on newspaper and get them on the internet and get them on radio and all these things. So having the right group of people that have the right experience in the right venue is pretty critical. And I think that's, going back to your thing now with products in the news, you're focused on helping people that are really looking to get into television. You're not saying, "Hey, look, I'm going to put you everywhere." It's getting them on television and how to work their product appropriately to the audience. And that's where, surrounding yourself with the right people really comes into play, because you have experience, you have the right people, you have the know-how, whereas just going to your local ad agency, they're just looking to get some money out of your pockets.
And there you go. That is exactly right. And I'm not talking bad about advertising agencies. It's just they're in business to make money. Mm-hmm. And these people starting out, they have limited funds, and so we recognize that. And what I do with people that go with us and that are going to be on our show, they get to spend a half hour with me, asking me anything they want to ask me, and me helping them any way I can. We'll also help them after the fact, after it airs. We'll get them with the people we buy media from. We'll give them all the advice we can give them. Truly, we want to see them succeed. Because we've been there. I've done it, Adam. It's not like I didn't read a book and I'm out here, talking about how great I am. It's the fact is I did it, and I didn't have money to do it, and I know what they're going through.
So just again recapping, I mean, I know it, and it's obvious to me, and obviously it sounds obvious to you, but I want to just drill this into the listeners. Not investing in your advertising is kind of like, as a guy, it's like me winking at a pretty girl in the dark, because they're never going to know actually what I'm doing, what my message is, if they can't see it. And you need to make sure that message is visible to whoever your target audience is. And, the best way to do it is a visual platform like television, in my opinion. And, obviously split testing that message is really, really critical. John, I'd love to have you back on the show. I know your time is short, and I don't want to just shut this down. So I want to ask a couple more questions. I want to hear more about you, and we can certainly talk about this product again. I'd love to have you back on the show. But first off, is there any specific messages about products in the news or ways that people can talk to you about finding out more on that product?
Right. Let me answer that, but let me go back to something real quick, Adam. And my time, I'll stay with you here.
Okay, great.
I'm fine. And I will come back on your show. I appreciate it. I like if I can help your listeners, that'd be awesome. So, but let me say this: I've seen people start businesses, spend their money on nice stationery, nice business cards, T-shirts, hats, all kinds of stuff. And I've said, "What are you doing? What this isn't going to help you." This is, and Adam, they don't have a presence. They don't have, they're focused on the wrong thing. They think, "Oh, look at these business cards," and they cost them hundreds of dollars. Don't spend your money on that stuff. That doesn't matter. Spend it where it matters. Spend it on driving people to your site, on driving people to your business. Spend the money there. That's what matters, not what your business card looks like. So, now back to what you were saying about products in the news. It is absolutely something that can help people, the people that are coming on, and that we've got a little bit of a teaser on productsinthenews.com where your listeners could see kind of the format of it, but they can take their little segment, and the shows will always be there. As we develop more and more shows, the old shows will be there, their segments will be there. We're going to put their segments on YouTube. We're going to do everything we can do to help get the message out there. It's after the show runs and how they use the show and being branded on television that will really count. And that's what they'll benefit from the most, is how they use that little segment going forward from a marketing standpoint. And we'll help them with it, that's for sure.
And this is coming from a guy that's been on national cable networks that have reached 180 million households. So we're speaking from a heck of a knowledge base on that. So, if any of the listeners here are considering television, by all means, you got to get over to productsinthenews.com and reach out to John and his team and, see what they can do to help you out. So, John, I'm a huge bookworm, so I'm always looking for good books to read. What's sitting on your nightstand right now? What's the best book you've read recently? And I'm always looking for good advice on what people are reading.
I wish I could tell you right now. I haven't read anything great right now. I just haven't.
Any books that have ever impacted you in any way, shape, or form?
Say that. What was that?
Have any books ever impacted you in any way, shape, or form, whether business wise or just
Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
There's been and I don't know, some inspirational stuff. There's inspirational people that just speak about life in general that I enjoy. I don't read a lot about how to run a successful business, how to succeed on television, how to do this. I never have. And all my life, I've never been a big reader. I just haven't. But inspirational stuff I like because it's general. It's just about your life and how you live your life, and so I like those. Which reminds me, Adam, I want to bring this up. I've got the stuff you and I have talked about. I put together an ebook that it's free. And I'd like to offer to your listeners. They get it. I'm not selling anything. There's no follow-up from me. It will just give them kind of a recap of what you and I are talking about, and they can read what it was like for me in the first 5 years. So if you wouldn't mind, I want to tell your listeners to just text 77948. Send a text to 77948, and in the message part of the text, put News 1, the number 1, News 1, and hit send. And they'll get a text back, and it will show them how they get it. It's real simple, and it'll go right to their email. But they'll get to read about what it was like for me in the first 5 years. It's nothing about how successful I was. It's really some of the stuff that I went through.
It's short and it's sweet. I've read it. It's 22 pages, and it's actually very, very interesting stuff. It talks a lot about what we've talked about today, but it also talks about a lot of other things. Talking about really important things like filling a need, which is where this all started from with John and how he got his start with Video Professor. One more question that I want to ask: what community events or charities do you sponsor? What's important to you? Do you do anything to give back?
Well, I had set up scholarships in Naperville actually for high school students. My mother was a teacher, and so I set one up for a student that wants to be a teacher. And then my father was an athlete, and I set it up for athletes. And I remember my father passed away before my mother, and I wanted to do something for him. And then my mother was like, "Well, what about educators? We're just left by the wayside," and she was right. So I did that, but the Muhammad Ali Foundation out here, I just do what I can do when I can do it for organizations. And I there's a place called the Dream Center here in Phoenix that helps people that don't have a place, they don't have a place to go, and abused women come to this shelter. They get them off the street, and so I get involved, and just I don't know, as things move me, Adam. There's nothing I really am out there, pounding any kind of message, but it just I just listen to it all.
No, I think that's fantastic. My wife's a teacher, so I certainly believe in scholarships. That's one thing I'd love to be able to do is, give back to the people that can't really get where they need to go on their own. Being able to help them can be extremely rewarding. So I think any kind of charity work that you do, or an investment, putting your money to help those people is fantastic. It doesn't have to be the drumbeat of one charity. If you spread it around, it's good karma in my opinion. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up if it's okay with you, John. I'm gonna ask one final question. Actually, let me check that. There's going to be two questions. First is if you could only leave us with one tip for getting started and succeeding in business, if you had to start it all over today, what would it be?
Oh, one tip.
One tip. I'm making it tough on you, John.
one.
It better be a good one.
Well, yeah, it better be a good one. Be prepared to work. Starting out, don't. This is the best advice I can give somebody starting out. If you're starting a business because you can't wait to hire employees so you can go to the beach, forget it. Don't do it. Do not start a business for that reason. Start a business because you believe in what you have and you know it will succeed, then follow your heart. But don't do it because you want to be rich tomorrow and you want employees. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say that. Oh, I just look at them like, are you crazy? Oh, I can't wait to start my business so I can take a vacation.
So I can retire.
Oh, yeah, yes. So please, to anybody listening, don't do that.
That is an outstanding tip. So I think you nailed it on that one. I couldn't agree with you more. So the final thing I want to make sure that everybody knows is first, if you want to see more about Products in the News, it's productsinthenews.com. Text 77948, and in the message, it's News1 to get John's free ebook. Where else can we find out more about you and your projects, John?
Well, I have a site, johnwshare.com, and that's kind of it. And as I move along, and by the way, I need to mention this. I have a company called Canless Air.
I was getting into o2hurricane.com in just a second. Yes. That might be a good second conversation for us. Another interview with you. To talk specifically about that.
Adam, and I wish you all the success in the world with what you're doing. But you contact me anytime, and I'll come back on and talk to your listeners because I enjoy doing this. But do, if your listeners would go, and if they want to follow this company, the o2hurricane.com, because it's a replacement for canned air, and canned air is extremely dangerous. Canned air, Adam, is the stuff that people huff, and they die from it. There's deaths out there. It's just very, very dangerous when they don't use it for what it's intended. And so this product that I've got, that I brought to market, is awesome. And if they go to o2hurricane.com and look at it, I think they'll be impressed with
they can watch another video with your friendly face on it to see all about it, right?
And let me know how. So did you watch that?
I did.
Okay. All right. Well,
I do my homework a little bit. I want to make sure I don't miss a trick when having a conversation. And again, I would love to have a conversation. I believe in building specific niches for your business, making sure that you're not trying to be all things to all people. And I think this is a terrific niche product to get into. It serves a great purpose. It has multiple uses, and most importantly, it's environmental and health friendly. So I think that's it serves multiple needs. And the way it's laid out, the website, the call to action, I'd love to have that be another conversation for another day. And I definitely welcome the opportunity to have you back.
Yes, that'd be great. I appreciate it. I'll come back anytime.
Thanks for your time today, John, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you. To you too.
Thank you.